286, whatever it is today. I don't know if that's what it was yesterday. To actually be able to power fleets with compressed natural gas. Another alternative. Cellulosic ethanol, while it's still in the very basic research stages in terms of trying to get the most economically feasible way to get it out there and get it used, is a realistic, not a futuristic opportunity for alternative and renewable fuels that fits that model of economic development, particularly for Arkansas and particularly for the South in general. All of these things, if you will, have to be part of this equation that we're pursuing, but we're not pursuing it fast enough. And unfortunately, sometimes the only thing that makes it be pursued fast enough are the economic conditions that wake us up as a people and as a country. Now, I don't like to say that, but it is a matter of history, and in my opinion, it is a matter of fact. I guess the bottom line about where we find ourselves in that regard is this: don't get discouraged. It seems like we take 2 steps forward and 1 step backwards every time we turn around with some real hope of ridding ourselves of our dependence on fossil fuels, or at least on those foreign-based fossil fuels. And it is something that all of us need to understand we're not going to conquer overnight. But the people in this room and the people that you come in contact with are probably the most influential in terms of keeping our eye on the prize and keeping this as a front burner issue. Part of my responsibility, part of my job is to use the bully pulpit to keep this on everybody's plate, to keep this in the eyes of the news media, to keep this on everybody's tongue. And when the cynics say, oh, it's just a passing fad, don't worry about it. We're still going to be using foreign oil as long as we're all alive, and I suspect we will be using some amounts of it as long as we're alive. That's not the issue. The issue is, how can we lower that dependence, increase our opportunity to provide the alternatives that you all are sitting here talking about. All of you play an important role in shaping that public policy and then in implementing the research that's going on. And nobody's got the right answer. There is not one right answer. Just as we are pursuing a number of alternative methods of trying to crack the enzymes and do everything we can to make cellulosic ethanol a reality, a practical and feasible reality, so too are every type of renewable and alternative energy applications being pursued somewhere across this country, if not this state. And in the course of all that research, in the course of all those applications, in the course of all those attempts to disseminate and distribute these alternative fuels, we will come up with the best solution. We will come up with a solution that's the most economically feasible and viable. Wasn't that long ago, everybody thought the answer was cellulosic ethanol from corn. We know what that did to the livestock and poultry industry. We know what that did to the fuel costs. But when you're talking about value added, whether it's tree tops and tree stumps, or switchgrass, cotton stalks, or rice straw, rice hulls, algae, or any of those other myriad feedstocks which exist in our state, then they are value-added feedstocks that don't adversely affect another part of our economic sector, as corn is obviously done. Now, if you're from Iowa, you don't hear that, but I'm sorry, I'm not from Iowa, so I'm just saying. We as a people owe it to our children and our grandchildren to take this so seriously that we're willing to sacrifice something in order to get on down the road, because sooner or later the other shoe's going to fall on this foreign oil. Sooner or later it'll be back to $140 a barrel. Sooner or later there will be more restrictions by OPEC that cut the flow. Sooner or later there will be greater environmental concerns that come to light, over and above what we already know exist. Sooner or later, those warnings that we've been given year after year about the consequences of these fossil fuels will come to fruition in such a way that all of us will be able to see it right there in front of our face and no longer suggest that it's just a hoax. But it's important that you don't give up. It's important that just because we don't have the distribution system in place today, we don't throw up our hands and say, I'm not going to worry about it. It's important that you all, as leaders and people who care about all this, understand that it is your obligation to work even harder to try to make that day come sooner rather than later. I'll go back to what I started with. It is a vital national security interest that we pursue this. It is a vital economic interest that we pursue this. And it is a vital environmental interest that we pursue this. I don't have the answers. It's not my job to have the answers. I'm not the expert and can't tell you where everything is. It's not my job to do that. What it is my job to do is to try to urge, cajole, threaten, plead, beg, do everything I can do to make those people a lot smarter than I am in this field. Never give up. Never get discouraged. Never quit. And understand that it is the future for our energy needs as a nation and indeed as the world. And for those that say, what can one person do? I'm just one person. What difference does it make? One person at a time is the only way anybody's ever gotten anything done in this world. One person at a time is the only way any change has ever been effectuated. One step at a time is the only way any journey has ever been mastered. Don't give up. Don't get discouraged. We can do this. We can create multiple alternative forms of renewable, sustainable, green energy for consumption both in power generation and in motor fuel usage. And we can rid ourselves of our dependence on foreign sources of energy. We can take care of our environment for our children and grandchildren. And we can put people to work.